At home, Americans feared Red subversion. Congress revived the House Committee on Un-American Activities. In 1947, the committee investigated Hollywood, factory of America's imagination.
Have you ever observed any communistic information in any scripts?
Well, I have turned down quite a few scripts because I thought they were tinged with communistic ideas. They haven't attempted to use me, I don't think, because apparently they know that I'm not very sympathetic to communism.
There has been a small group within the Screen Actors Guild which has consistently opposed the policy of the Guild board and officers or the Guild itself as evidenced by the vote on various issues. That small clique has been referred to, has been discussed as more or less following the tactics that we associate with the Communist Party.
If I had my way about it, they'd all be sent back to Russia or some other unpleasant place.
Ten witnesses, the Hollywood 10, defied the committee's right to ask about their beliefs.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
It's unfortunate and tragic that I have to teach this committee the basic principles of Americanism.
That's not the question. The question is, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
I'm framing my answer in the only way in which any American citizen can frame his
Then you
answer to
denied-
a question
then
which
you-
invades his, absolutely invades
Then
his
you
right.
denied, you refused to answer that question. Is that correct?
I have told you that I will
All right.
offer my beliefs, my affiliations, and
Here's the
everything
witness.
else
Here's the
to
witness.
the American public, and they will know where I stand, as they do from what I have written.
Stand away
I
from
have
the
written
stand.
for Americanism for many years, and I shall
Stand
continue
away from the
to
stand.
fight for the Bill of Rights, which you are
Officer,
trying to
take
destroy.
this man away from the stand.
Others from the film industry demonstrated their support for the constitutional rights of the 10.
Are you or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
I believe I have the right to be confronted with any evidence which supports this question. I should like to see what you have.
Oh, well, you would.
Yes.
Well, you will pretty soon. The witness is excused.
Either you completely cooperated with the committee, which meant saying yes or no to the question about whether you were a communist or ever had been. And if the answer was yes, as it was in my case, we knew the next question was who else was, and we certainly didn't want to go into that.
The 10 were imprisoned. With hundreds more, they were blacklisted, their livelihoods taken away.
People generally in Hollywood were pretty scared to have anything to do with us. Whereas before we went to prison, they had not been nearly as scared, and there were plenty of undercover arrangements that were made to write scripts under pseudonyms for a good deal less money than you were accustomed to being paid. There were a couple of possible suicides as a result of it. There were a good deal of misery.
Americans feared that the enemy would take advantage of their freedoms, that agents of communism were undermining America.
The atom bomb explodes again in the headlines of the world. President Truman announces an atomic explosion detected somewhere in Russia, 3 years ahead of the schedule expected by the West.
America's nuclear monopoly was over. Then came China.
Tragedy overtook China. Armed and equipped by Russia, red hordes brought ancient Cathay to its knees. At the end of '49, all China sags under the red yoke.
Republican Senator Joe McCarthy blamed traitors in the State Department for the loss of China. He launched his own witch hunt.
Today, the most dangerous enemy agent is not so much concerned with the secret information about weapons as he is with infiltrating the necessary departments of the government and shaping and controlling the actions of our nation so that the enemy is progressively winning without even firing a single shot. Now, I intend to name names. John S. Service. And remember that name, if you will.
I have never knowingly transmitted any information which was, shall we say, secret military plans.
Service was hounded out of the State Department.
I had trouble renting homes, renting an apartment in New York. And the companies, well, what did our stockholders say, you know? So the companies that I had known and had dealings with abroad, export companies, they said, sorry, we think you're a fine guy, but we don't dare touch you.
One communist. One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many. And even if there were only one communist in the State Department, even if there were only one communist in the State Department, that would still be one communist too many.
President Truman tried to dismiss McCarthy's attacks.
Not a single person who has been adjudged to be a communist or otherwise disloyal remains on the government payroll today. We're not going to turn the United States into a right-wing totalitarian country in order to deal with a left-wing totalitarian threat.
But leaders of the American Communist Party were jailed, and the persecution spread. Left-wing labor organizations were banned, radical groups indicted, demonstrations broken up.
And if they put the word commie on someone, that meant that that person was an agent of the Soviets. That meant that that person was dangerous and had to be done away with.
The FBI under Edgar Hoover uncovered several Soviet spy rings. They used the national interest to justify any method of locating subversives.
We were using the same methods that Hoover accused the Communist Party of using, and that's getting people to spy on their friends. And this was one of the criticisms he had of the Communist Party.
I felt guiltless. What had I ever done wrong? I'd never even gotten a traffic ticket. And here I was called before, in public, a state Senate investigating committee about my beliefs. I felt very, very wronged, and I felt that I had to not only uphold myself, my reputation, but that of my fellow teachers, my fellow union members, my fellow citizens.
We would talk to children, if they were in college, about their parents, and we talked to parents about children, and we talked to the neighbors about those people, and then if someone did seem halfway sympathetic in the Communist Party, we talked to them.
It was totally damaging to what we deeply believed America was supposed to stand for.
In the 1952 presidential election, General Eisenhower, the Republican candidate, chose the red-baiting Richard Nixon as his running mate. Eisenhower mocked the Democrats for being soft on communism.
The future of this country belongs to more courageous men. It belongs to men who know that freedom's fight must be forever, relentless, uncompromising, and fair. It belongs to men who, today, are ready to bear spiritual and intellectual arms against an alien army of communist ideas.
To get elected, Ike needed the support of Joe McCarthy and his right-wing followers.
I spent about half an hour with the general last night. While I can't report that we agreed entirely on everything, I can report that when I left that meeting with the general,
I have the same feeling as when I went in, and that is that he's a great American, will make a great president, an outstanding president.
Right from the beginning, he detested Joe McCarthy. McCarthy was the first-class demagogue, and Eisenhower just couldn't stand that type of person.
Eisenhower's old wartime commander, General Marshall, was accused by McCarthy of treachery. Intimidated, Ike dropped words praising Marshall from an election speech he made in McCarthy's home state.
He was roundly criticized for that, because it seemed to indicate that he was influenced by McCarthy.
McCarthy now denounced leading Republicans and even senior army officers as communist sympathizers. But he had gone too far. Political opinion swung away from him, and his enemies gained courage.
The names of communists. You say to the army.
You've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
It all sort of came to pieces. And then there was this move to censure him, and he fought that very badly. Now, a number of us were advising him on how to handle that, and he agreed to everything we said, and then he did just the opposite.
You have been here trying to smear the staff of this committee. The young men who have been working to uncover communists, you jump up and run away without answering.
McCarthy's power collapsed as the politicians walked away from him. But the spirit of McCarthyism, the smearing of dissent as communist treason, stained American democracy for decades.